Loved by his supporters and despised by his detractors, President Donald Trump's first term in office has been controversial to say the least. On November 8, 2016, Donald Trump, real estate mogul and reality TV star, beat Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton to clinch the presidency after a bruising campaign.
She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory.
He was inaugurated on January 20th the following year.
We, the citizens of America, are now joined in a great national effort to rebuild our country and restore its promise for all of our people.
Not long after being sworn in, the president signed several executive orders, one of which banned people holding passports from 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the USA.
Why I have to be punished for somebody else's problem?
The measures, which were meant to prevent terrorism, were met with protests across the USA and the rest of the world. The president also signed an executive order attempting to enact his plans to strengthen the southern border of the USA. The building of this wall was a major part of Trump's presidential campaign and a project he would struggle to secure funding for throughout his first term.
We're going to build the wall. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. We're going to stop drugs from coming in.
Later that year, Trump fired FBI Director James Comey, who was leading an investigation into claims the Trump campaign had ties to alleged Russian meddling in the election. He was succeeded by Robert Mueller, whose investigation would eventually find no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia.
Where is the collusion?
As Trump toured the world and met other leaders, his antics often made headlines for the wrong reasons. The press paid special attention to his handshakes, which were often extended affairs. This one, with then Prime Minister of Japan Shinzo Abe, lasted 19 seconds.
Thank you, everybody.
Throughout his presidency, a series of hot mic moments went viral as Trump was first captured complimenting the French First Lady on her figure. And then, world leaders were caught out appearing to gossip about the president at a NATO summit in London.
Well, he's two-faced.
In August of his first year in office, a far-right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia descended into violence as protesters clashed in the streets. It was the first major incident in a series of clashes which would erupt across the USA during his first term.
Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
2018 saw the president go head-to-head with China in a trade war, while courting controversy as he met with divisive world leaders. He was the first US president to meet North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un at a summit in Singapore in 2018, despite saying this in 2017.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
The next year, the pair's relationship had improved considerably.
And then we fell in love. Okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters. And they're great letters. We fell in love.
This led to the president crossing the demilitarized zone at the border of North and South Korea, in a spectacle no one could have predicted. He enraged intelligence officials by seeming to side with Vladimir Putin when asked about alleged Russian meddling in US elections.
People came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
It should have been obvious. I thought it would be obvious, but I would like to clarify just in case it wasn't. In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia.
But it wasn't just with foreign leaders that Trump formed unlikely relationships.
To end up in the cheapest factory ever, the prison system.
I'll tell you what, that was pretty impressive.
2018 saw Trump's zero-tolerance policy lead to the separation of children from their parents at the US border. The emotive stories and recordings of families separated by the policy led to it being rescinded after widespread condemnation in the US and abroad. In December 2018, Trump declared ISIS defeated in Syria.
We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly. We've taken back the land, and now it's time for our troops to come back home.
A year later, the House voted to impeach the president on charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. The impeachment came after it emerged Donald Trump had allegedly urged the Ukrainian president to investigate the then frontrunner for the Democratic nomination and subsequent challenger in 2020, Joe Biden. Despite the House voting to impeach the president, the Senate acquitted Trump on February 5, 2020. Early 2020 saw Trump make one of his boldest moves yet, the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. He was killed in a US airstrike at Baghdad airport in Iraq.
Soleimani was actively planning new attacks, and he was looking very seriously at our embassies, and not just the embassy in Baghdad, but we stopped him, and we stopped him quickly, and we stopped him cold.
The assassination ratcheted up tensions between the two countries, whose relationship had seen a marked decline throughout the Trump presidency, after Trump's decision to pull out of the Obama-negotiated Iran nuclear deal. But this was soon to be eclipsed by the biggest challenge of his presidency yet, the coronavirus. The novel illness, which originated in China and has now spread across the world, infecting millions, has dominated 2020 and become the major issue of the election. Trump responded to the threat by first banning travel from China, then Europe and the United Kingdom.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
As the coronavirus spread across the US and the death toll mounted, Trump was ridiculed for these comments at a White House press conference.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Later that year, amidst the coronavirus chaos, protests erupted in the US and around the world after video emerged of the killing of George Floyd.
I can breathe. All Americans were rightly sickened and revolted by the brutal death of George Floyd. My administration is fully committed that for George and his family, justice will be served. He will not have died in vain. But we cannot allow the righteous cries and peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. The following measures are going into effect immediately. First, we are ending the riots and lawlessness that has spread throughout our country. We will end it now. Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets.
In October, with just over a month to go until Election Day, Trump announced he had become one of the millions in the USA to contract the coronavirus. He was taken from the White House to Walter Reed Medical Center for treatment, where he spent 3 nights before heading back to continue his campaign.
Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen. We have the greatest country in the world. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune. I don't know.
Donald Trump's first term began with a shock victory, and he has continued to surprise throughout his 4 years in the White House. He's rewritten the rulebook on presidential conduct, from his rambling speeches to his prolific Twitter output. And in 2020, it appears his ability to surprise hasn't diminished. with the president proving pollsters and pundits wrong again for a second time. Just not wrong enough to send him back to the White House.